Hi, everybody. Brianna Whitney, host of True Crime AZ Live. I know typically on these Thursdays, I'm with you guys live, but this one's a little bit different. We pre-recorded this because I'm out of town. I'm going to my alma mater, Cal Poly, to actually talk about true crime reporting at a media festival, and I wasn't going to be here. But we still wanted to bring you guys an episode because there's some important things we wanted to talk about. If you watched this show last week, you know that I was preparing to be a media witness for the Arizona execution of Richard Djerf, a prisoner who had killed an entire family in 1993 and was finally being put to death for that. That happened, and because this show is so transparent, I really wanted to get into the details of how that went, what I saw, and how I felt about it with you guys. And so we thought the best way to do this without me here was to actually record an interview. Our managing editor and chief investigative reporter, Morgan Lowe, was up here with me, and he knows so much about the legal process, about capital punishment. There really wasn't anybody better to actually interview me about what happened. And he also had some good context too, like about where the body goes after and kind of how this process plays out. So I want to bring you guys this interview with me and Morgan about how this execution went of Richard Djerf. I know I can't comment live like I typically can in these episodes, but please leave any comments or questions you have for me on YouTube, and I can address those when I get back. I'm always paying attention to what you guys are saying, and I know this is a really tough topic. It's a controversial topic, and there's been so many people who have been weighing in on social media since it happened. So I want to hear from you guys. I appreciate you tuning in. Here is the interview with me and Morgan Lowe about the execution of Richard Djerf.
Let's start with, how does one get chosen to witness an execution?
And probably, why does somebody choose to be part of that?
Yeah.
Because I got that question, and it's fair. In Arizona and many states in the country, we have media witnesses to executions. And you can sign up to have your name put into kind of this, I don't know if it's a lottery drawing, but basically submitted to the prison if you want to possibly be a witness to an execution. Why would I do that, right?
Yeah.
And I get it. People are going to ask that. I think it's important for us to witness these executions. For one thing, we've had botched executions in Arizona before, and so there's no cameras that are broadcast out or any video of what goes on there. The prison staff's there, sometimes attorneys are there, and sometimes families there. But other than that, you're really relying on the media witnesses to report back what happens and to be unbiased about it, to be genuine and honest about it. And so it's somewhat of a watchdog role. When you're taking somebody's life, it's the most serious thing that you can do.
Yeah.
And it needs to go as planned. And so for me personally, being the true crime correspondent, I mean, gosh, you and I together probably have covered countless first-degree murder capital cases. And so when I'm in a courtroom and I'm covering a trial, if they're sentenced to death, I want to know what the end of that process is like, so that I can give that context, that analysis, that experience, that knowledge when I'm reporting on future cases. Now I actually know what happens in the execution room and can relay that kind of experience and kind of further my reporting. I think it was important for my role.
Yeah, it's like the same concept that allows the media to witness a trial.
Yeah.
It just goes to say that, well, then why shouldn't, if you are trusted enough to witness the process, you should be trusted enough to witness the end of it. Did you have jitters going into this?
Definitely. I think the morning of waking up, and I didn't even get much sleep because you're thinking about it. Like, what's it going to be like? Yes. Honestly, though, the most anxiety-inducing part of the process for me was just almost the hour leading up, because you're shuffled into these vans that take you through the prison grounds, which I'd never been further into the prison. Mm-hmm. All the prison staff looks like Secret Service. I mean, they're dressed to the nines, earpieces in, like it feels really different. Then you're waiting for an hour with your other media witnesses, and you're getting to know each other in this room. I was like a visitation room, but super quiet, nothing there. We couldn't bring anything. We had to wear analog watches so that we could tell the time. They gave us a pad of paper and a pen. This is the pad of paper they gave me. And that's all we had. And so the weirdest part was kind of this isolation a little bit, then finally being taken into the execution viewing room.
Mm-hmm.
And the stands, I would describe them as stands. Even though it's a small room, the benches are like at a baseball field if you're watching like a T-ball game.
Yeah.
Risen like that. You walk in, the attorney general's there, the Maricopa County attorney's there, and then other attorneys who have either worked on the case, working on the case now, et cetera, prison staff. We're all just sitting there. We were told we couldn't talk. And so we get in there, and as you're waiting for the process to start, it's just silence. There's 22 people that were in that room that I counted. Just, you could hear
22.
22. That's what I counted at least.
Media witnesses, the AG, the county attorney.
I think other attorneys, Djerf's attorneys now, likely. I think the prosecutor on the case was there. Then other prison staff. There's a couple people in there that I don't know who they were with. We know the victim's family was not there, and I don't believe any of Djerf's family members were there either. So I don't know who those other people were, but 22 that I counted were in that room waiting. And then you see on the monitors in front of you, Djerf be brought in and the medical technicians come in. And then the part for me was the curtains. We're looking at this glass window, there's curtains, and they slowly open up like the show's about to start. And that was so weird for me.
It's like the curtain on a stage.
Like a puppet show is kind of what I felt like, because you're in this small room. And that to me felt very weird and unsettling, right? Like, this isn't a show, it's an execution, but that's the protocol. And so that's what we had. And in that moment, I think I was the most nervous. But as it started to go on, I felt like I got kind of settled.
So this is a window or is it a monitor? Are you seeing with your own eyes what's happening on the other side of the window?
Both. So the curtains were over the glass window in front of us. That's what opened up. So we're a direct line into the execution room. But there were other cameras in the execution area, and then in front of us, to the right, to the left, above us, and then behind us, in the viewing room, there were monitors. And those showed the syringes, the plungers that they would use to administer the cocktail. And then it also showed other angles of Richard Djerf. And the one that really sticks with me, honestly more so than looking through the window itself, was the bird's eye view of what was going on, because that's the final image I feel like I have seared in my head now of Djerf at the end of the execution process.
Okay. What's with all the, not secrecy, but that security of making sure you didn't bring your own pad of paper and pencil?
I don't know. I mean, I get no, cameras, no phones, no nothing. The smartwatches too were not really supposed to be there.
So no electronics.
Mm-mm. No.
I guess it goes to that idea that they don't want this videotaped. They don't want it recorded by anybody. It's supposed to be recorded in your mind.
Exactly. And that we didn't bring anything in from the outside, only they provided what we could use. I don't know. I mean, is there a possibility somebody could have brought a pen that was a recording device? I mean, maybe that's partially this. But yeah, they told us to leave everything except for our IDs. We did bring our IDs with us.
If I go back and I think about movies that I saw, The Green Mile, there was something in there where they talked about execution day. Mm-hmm. It was somber. Was there a palpable mood that you were able to, clue in on what the atmosphere was like?
Yeah. I mean, I think it kind of changes throughout the day, because when you're first taken into the prison, you're taken into this room with all of the media. So that's including the witnesses and then everybody else who's covering this execution. And there it's just kind of quiet. There's not a lot going on. But I think the closer we got to the actual execution, the more nerves you could sense. And I think when the media witnesses were taken to this other room and we waited there for like an hour, that was... We were talking to each other to get to know each other, because at the end of the day, this very small group of people was about to witness something together that is so out of the ordinary that you almost were looking for the connection, the feeling with somebody else or other people to be like, okay, we're going to be okay. That part, I think, was the most tense, but then somber and dark. I think I would describe the mood as we all waited and watched the actual execution take place. After we left, I feel like there was this like relief, like, okay, we got through that. We did it.
So you're in this room. It's silent. Nobody, did they tell you couldn't talk?
They told us beforehand. Yeah. So as we were driving in the van, they told us we couldn't talk to each other, and we really couldn't talk to anybody else either. I mean, I gave the, acknowledgement nod to Attorney General Chris Mays and Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. I mean, we know them well.
Right.
And so, it was that kind of like, okay, you and I are here, we're about to see this, but yeah, no conversation. But there are microphones that are in the execution room. And so when they turned those on, that's when we could start to hear the prep. And then as Djerf was brought in, and then of course it continued from there.
Yeah. So describe what you saw. What does it look like to watch somebody be put to death?
Yeah, so it's just like a crazy question. So he came in, and I think where I felt like I had a bit of a unique position in this was that I was the last of the media witnesses in that room, and probably most of the people in that room, to have conversation with Richard Djerf. He had been messaging me for several days before this. He had really, shown immense remorse at this point in his life, wanted the victims to be remembered. He told me he wasn't afraid to die, but that he did have anxiety that people were going to watch. So I was curious what he was going to be like when he came in. And
I would imagine that your experience was different from the other witnesses, because in some way you had developed some sort of a reporter-subject relationship.
Yeah.
It wasn't just this person who committed a crime 30 years ago, like maybe he was with some of the others.
And that is a great point. Fox 10's anchor John Hook was also a media witness. And the reason he was a media witness was because he covered the Luna family murders in 1993. And it was so heinous and so awful. I mean, a family of four. We have the teenage daughter raped and killed. We have the 5-year-old boy killed. He made the mom and the son watch each other die. I mean, it was a horrible, horrible crime. And that stuck with John Hook. And so for him, he wanted to see that through till the end. I was not even 1 year old when this happened. And so my only connection with it was, one, watching the jailhouse interview that our anchor Scott Passmore did with Richard Djerf in 1995, where he was very nonchalant about the crimes themselves, admitted to them, but very nonchalant, and my conversation with Djerf today. And it was odd. It was odd to have, some sort of, I don't call it a relationship but some sort of rapport, I guess, with him ahead of time. I had just been talking to him. And so it was odd. Yeah. And so I had the context that when he came in, I knew he was afraid that people were going to be watching. That seemed to be what settled with him. And he did not look out at us at all, not once. In fact, he kept his eyes shut really through this entire process. So he's restrained onto the gurney. He's wearing all white. And they come in, the prison staff comes in to announce and read the death warrant. And that happened just a bit after 10 a.m. They ask Djerf if he has any last words. He says, "I do not." That was the quote. And I was a little surprised by that, just because he was so remorseful and he had so much to say about wanting to remember the victims. But I think he kind of got that all out in writing to me, and maybe a couple other media entities too. And Albert Luna Jr., the target of this crime, who, Djerf had become obsessed with, that he had stolen something from his apartment, he who found his family dead was not there. There was no victims' family members there. And so my thought process was, Djerf didn't feel he had anything to say to attorneys and media witnesses. Maybe would have been different if the Luna family had been there, or members of the Luna family. I'm not sure. He says, "I do not." They took a long time to get the IVs in. And that was the biggest issue with this whole execution process on Friday. I mean, we watched them put needles in and out of each arm for probably a good 10 minutes this went on. And he didn't flinch. I mean, he just kept his eyes shut, just took it. But they did struggle. And they came out later and said, he's a really big guy, and he is a really big guy. So it wasn't necessarily shocking that they struggled on that. But that was definitely the part that I would say didn't go quite as planned. Okay. But after that, he said he didn't have any words. There was nobody, there was like no priest or anything that came in. Sometimes that can happen. That was not the case here. And they said this will begin. And so on the monitors above, we could see them. There were 8 syringes, but they only used 4, two green and 2 black. And that's the drug cocktail that they use here with, I think, phenobarbital was the drug that's used mostly. They started to put one of those in, and pretty quickly after they started the first one is the only time that we saw any sort of reaction from Djerf. He took a few puffs, I would describe it like kind of like that, and then what sounded like a very small snore, and then it looked like he just went to sleep. That was the end of any movement we ever saw from him. They kept going with the next syringe, and about 20 minutes in, 20 minutes in, they went to check on him, and it seemed like they were checking for a pulse. By that point, now we're at about 10:30, and I don't think he was alive at that point, but they continued the process. The main thing that I noted was that as this was going on, it was pretty quick, no movement, but the color drained from his face so quickly, like a bluish gray. It went from like a normal skin tone to blue gray so quickly. That was hard to see.
So you could tell by the way he looked more than by the way he acted. Anything physically that happened?
100%.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's done. Does somebody come out and say, we pronounce him dead? How does that happen?
So the same prison official that announced the death warrant ended up coming back in and said, official time of death, 10:40. The media witnesses all agreed. We think between 10:30 and 10:32, he was deceased at that point. But that was the official time of death was noted as 10:40, and then the medical staff, went away. And the medical staff and the technicians that perform this is also, I think, a very odd, mysterious portion of this whole thing. They come in, there's 4 of them that performed this, all in white from head to toe. Like, we could only see this part really of their faces. I don't even know who was a man and woman. And we don't know who they are. We don't know if they're nurse practitioners, nurses, doctors. Like, we have no idea. And you actually gave me a little bit of context on this, that our station had tried to sue to learn more.
We, the Arizona First Amendment Coalition, took the Department of Corrections to court to try to get, it was after the executions had been botched, and we wanted information. We wanted to know what the drug was, but we also wanted to know what the qualifications were,
Yeah.
and the sort of resumes of the people. These positions are protected. They don't need to reveal who does that, and the idea is if everybody in your community knew that you were the one showing up for the execution, you would be people who don't agree with the death penalty would retaliate, or you'd have adverse consequences. We just wanted to know their training, like what they were like, and we got no real information from them. That job is kept very secret.
Yeah, and I can't imagine being those people either. I don't know how they're selected. I have no idea, but that also felt pretty mysterious of the whole thing. So yeah, the prison staff member comes in, announces time of death, 10:40 a.m., and then the curtains shut.
The curtains shut. Did the monitors turn off?
Yeah, there was actually like a light switch on the side that a prison staff had to flip on the monitors on and off, which I also thought was interesting because had something gone wrong, it seems like the prison could have just chosen for us not to see. That was something that I don't know what the protocol is, but
yeah, when it's gone wrong in the past, they have allowed the witnesses to watch. They've described it. I think that's I think that's court mandated. And
it probably is. I didn't know at first where the monitors were turned on, but it ended up just being a light switch in our room. So once they said, okay, this is done, they switched it off, the curtains closed. We shuffled out just as quickly as we had shuffled in and went back to the main media room and got ready to give a press conference about what we had seen, what we witnessed, give those details to the other media members.
How do you process something like that? You witnessed it, you thought about what was important, and then now you're going to have to regurgitate that. You're going to have to communicate that to the media, but by proxy, you are communicating that to the public about what happened with this most final type of punishment for a crime.
I was nervous at this point because you know that so many people now are watching, and as we're just processing what we saw, it's like, okay, immediately public speak in front of all these people now, and we're streaming live and everything like that. So I mean, it's a lot of responsibility. And yeah, I think one thing that helped was between the actual execution room and then getting to that press conference, there was about 10 minutes of the media witnesses all together back in that waiting room. And we all kind of double checked. Did you have this time? Did you have this time? Okay, we agree on all of this. This is what we saw. And I feel like that helped me process it a little bit. Just like, okay, we all agree this is how it affected us. This is what we saw. And that kind of helped take the nerves away. But I really just viewed it as, we talk about bad things all the time in this job, and I really take this role seriously. And so for me, I viewed it going in as a very clinical process. I feel like it was clinical, and I was just going to come back and confidently explain what I saw. Not that I don't have emotions, but in that moment, the job was to report what happened. And John Hook and I kind of look at each other. We're like, we got this, and we both got up and gave our thoughts of how this went.
Was there an odd question that was asked to any of you from the media who were there?
Nothing that odd that I remember. Good questions from people.
Yeah. What was different about this than maybe what you thought it was going to be like?
I really went in thinking this is going to be like X, Y, and Z. It's going to go clinically. It's going to be step by step. And it was, but I don't think I anticipated that feeling right after the curtains opened where I was like, oh my gosh, what would happen? Like, what would happen if I couldn't get through this? Like, what would happen? And it was, and what I didn't anticipate having to do to combat that was I literally kept repeating over and over in my head the crimes that he did, and looking at the few pictures we have of the Luna family. I just kept replaying them over and over because that's why we were here. That's why we got here, and keeping that front of mind I think helped. But I don't think I realized in that moment how, for somebody like me who I think is pretty strong in those like pressurized moments, where I thought, oh my gosh, what if I can't get through this?
Right.
So, yeah.
You went into this having communicated with the defendant, the condemned inmate. In this day and age, when we're being a reporter, it means trying to get as much information as we can and communicating and reporting as much as we can. But in a situation like this, where you have somebody who was convicted of doing such horrible things and then he's executed, were you concerned that your talk, your reporting on what he said to you was going to be viewed maybe with some hostility from victims' rights organizations or the members of the Luna family?
Yeah. I wasn't quite prepared maybe for how the reception was going to be on the back end. So I did reach out to the Luna family, and that was the priority, was let's talk to them. Are they going to the execution? You know, that was number one. And I didn't hear back, and that's understandable. I mean, nobody can put themselves in the Luna family shoes. I am often in contact with people who are incarcerated in prison or in jail here in Arizona, because at the end of the day, our job is to get all sides of a story, and that includes somebody who is suspected or convicted of murder. So I often communicate with people behind bars to try to get that side of the story. And so this wasn't different for me, so to speak, but I think when we're talking about death penalty, yeah, there were some questions about that. I had some people on social media ask me, how are you communicating? Why is that allowed? And I just explained, inmates have the ability to message their family members, people who sign up and can, message them through this prison email system, so to speak. It's also how they communicate with their legal teams. And that is true no matter what. So on my end, I just kind of explained I have access to this to inmates around the country for this reason, because we can seek information. And I felt that it was important to learn, of the other executions I've covered, I haven't witnessed, but have covered, none of them have shown any remorse or said anything about the victims or the crimes themselves. Richard Djerf was actually pretty candid about it and shockingly showed a lot of remorse. And in some form or fashion, that almost made me feel better about what was going on, because he also believed he should die. Like, this wasn't was he wrongly convicted? Are we putting somebody to death who isn't guilty? And I get those concerns, right? Like, that's so concerning. In this case, Djerf agreed that this should be his fate. And I think maybe hearing that from him too, like, it's my time. I did this horrible thing. Remember the victims, not me. This is how I go. Maybe helped the situation a little bit. But yeah, I get why people would ask, why are you talking to him?
Do you and I briefly talked about this earlier, but do we know if Djerf's family requested that his remains be repatriated to their community?
I don't know. I know his parents have died. I looked them up. He might have a brother, but I don't think anybody was very close with him. So I don't know that. But that's something I asked you, because I gotten some questions on social media, like where we know the medical examiner takes custody of the body after the death, but they didn't tell us in that moment where it goes next. And so I was asking you that, and you had some context here.
Yeah, there apparently is a pauper's grave near the prison in Florence, if not on the grounds, near the grounds, and that is where the condemned, the executed inmates go if their families don't want them back. And I'd heard about that because I'd heard one serial killer from Arizona who was executed, and the family didn't want him, so they buried him out there. I don't know exactly where it's located, but
yeah,
not incredibly surprising that would be the situation.
No, I didn't know until I asked you if there was cremation involved or if it was a burial. I didn't know, and so that was a question that I had gotten on social media, which I thought was a completely fair question.
So everything that we do as journalists affects what we do in the future. Everything we've done in the past affects what we do in the future. How is this experience going to affect your reporting in especially the true crime genre as you move forward?
For one thing, I think I now have the context to give to a death sentence. There's been a few times since I've worked here that somebody has been sentenced to death. The zombie hunter investigation comes to mind. And I've had no concept before that of what that actually means. This is, in Arizona, as of now, it means decades on death row, appeal after appeal after appeal. It means the back and forth of the death penalty going forward and executions going forward here being paused. I mean, it's a long road to justice for everybody involved. But now I know what a death sentence really means, what the end of that actually looks like. And so I'll be able to carry that with me to enhance the reporting that I can give, the analysis that I can give, I think, as I cover trials going forward, and give a little bit more humanity to the process itself, rather than just guessing and not knowing. I can actually say for certain how it goes. I think that's important. But I think, the one thing that was a little tough was the social media reception on this.
That's new, and that's different.
Yeah. So I went into this knowing the death penalty is extremely controversial, and I know that. And I also knew people would ask, why would you be a media witness? And we explained, we think it's important so that if something goes wrong, we're there to report it and to be transparent. But I came outside after the prison and recorded a video like minutes after about what I had seen, just very factually. Nothing enhanced. Just this is what happened. Yeah. This is how it went. This is how I felt. And the reception on that video was every which way. It was, you look like you're smiling, you look way too happy, you look too excited. Or it was, you should be smiling, this guy's a vicious murderer, we should be celebrating this. Or it was, I don't like that you said it was peaceful, he should have had a violent death like he gave the Luna family. Or it was, why are you wearing makeup and a yellow jacket to an execution? Why do you look happy? You should look upset. This is way too peaceful, you should be this. And I thought in that moment, there was no winning on this. I wasn't happy. I was just factually reporting because that was my job in the end. Like, my job was to say, this is what happened. Yeah. I wasn't going to a funeral for my own family member, but at the end of the day, I'm a television reporter, and I approached the day as I would a work day, getting ready for the day, there to report the facts. And that was hard because it was so split. Some people coming to my defense. Somebody actually said I should be on the gurney. For how and there was just no winning. And I think that was a hard thing because I understand that people have questions. There were people from other countries commenting, why do you even do executions? And I get that too. Like Australia, they were, people were asking. It was so split. And so I think that was hard. I was trying to respond to people. I don't always look at the comments. We can't in this job, but I did feel something serious like an execution warranted some response to feedback. Like, we want feedback, but I wasn't happy about it, and it was hard to see people be so split.
Well, and it's your job.
It's my job, yeah.
You're not a social media influencer who just chose to do this. This was your assignment, and I think maybe some viewers in their impassioned typing tend to forget that.
Right. And there were some really nice people there too that expressed, I hope you're doing okay and everything else. But yeah, that was a little bit hard to see. Not that I'm unfamiliar with social media feedback and the good and the bad. This job breeds it.
Yeah.
But it was really, really split. And at the end of the day, my intention, my goal was to just report what I had seen with nothing more than that. And I feel like I did that. So it was the best I could do. But yeah, people feel so strongly, and I get why. I just got caught a little bit in the middle of how people felt about the topic itself.
Sometimes when we talk about experiences in an interview, we follow a line of questioning, and we leave out tidbits that our viewers might just find interesting. Is there anything that we left out that you think that your audience would find interesting about this experience?
Well, for one thing, people were asking me, and I guess I didn't say it here, but he did have a last meal, and some people thought that was a fake thing, that it was like a made up thing, but it's not. He does have a last meal. They all do. His specifically was a double cheeseburger with lettuce, onion rings, a slice of cherry pie, and a 20-ounce Pepsi. I thought that was interesting. And we don't know where that was from, but people seem to still be interested in. And then you had people who said, why does he even get a last meal? Again, split. So I think I can at least tell people, like, that's not a falsehood. They do have a last meal, and that was reported. But I think, to me, I guess, where I felt different and can try to convey this to people is it feels like almost ancient in the way that it's handled when you're on the prison grounds and being escorted to this room. It's very unnatural. But they went as much according to protocol and process as it possibly could.
Yeah.
So I think the process itself is really hard for anybody else to imagine because it really is so odd. But of the actual process, it was about what I expected it to go. We didn't have to submit a whole lot ahead of time, just our credentials of media to be there. I did have a few people ask me, can Joe Schmo out there go witness an execution? And that answer is no. As far as I know, unless the prison pre-approves you to be there for whatever reason, you can't just go witness that. But you had the other people on the other side of the aisle saying, I'd love to witness the execution of somebody who took a family's life.
Yeah.
So that was, the questions I actually think were almost some of the more interesting parts of what happened in terms of just answering it. But yeah, just the odd leading up to it is.
It's an unnatural
Yeah.
event. Yeah. Well, Brianna, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
I feel
thank
like
you.
I learned a lot about the process just talking to you about this.
Well, I feel like I've learned anything about the capital punishment and stuff from you, from like court and trial. So I'm glad
Happy
I
to
can
return
give
the
you,
favor.
return the favor on this front. But yeah, no, I think I learned a lot, and I am relieved it's over. But yeah, it does stick in my mind. Yeah, I think it'd be weird if it didn't. So yeah, but I'm glad we could also, bring our viewers into kind of a little bit more of the behind the scenes, a little more transparent, a little more genuine of how this went. Like, this is the raw, this is it. Like, this is not filtered. This isn't
editing.
No editing. We're not pre-writing anything. Like, this is just you and me. So I'm glad we were able to bring you guys into that. And I appreciate you interviewing me about this.
Anytime.
Thanks to Morgan for joining me, and I appreciate you guys watching that. I hope it gave a lot more context into how this went from every possible standpoint. It's such an unnatural and unusual thing to experience. So I really appreciate you guys watching that with us. Next week, I will be back live, and I'm excited to join you guys live because we have a special Halloween show planned. We're looking into the spooky, the paranormal, some haunted mysteries here in Arizona. We've got some special things planned up our sleeve. So it's going to be a little different for us, a little bit of a different show, and I can't wait to do that with you guys live. So we will see you next week for the Halloween show. I appreciate you guys again watching us each week, supporting us, and thank you so much. We'll see you next week for True Crime AZ Live.